Good evening. I'm Dan Coffman. I'm the superintendent here at Cambridge City Schools, and I greatly appreciate your time and making the effort to come out tonight for our, I believe, our fifth community meeting in regards to a levy that's going to be on the ballot May 8th, 2018. We're here this evening to share information with you so that we can help you understand the decision that you're going to need to make on May 8th. We're really really excited, I guess, about the number of people who are taking interest to, at minimum, become educated on what this levy is all about before they make the decision they'll have to make May 8th. This evening, you'll see in the middle, we have AVC Communications here. They've been a great partner so far in this process. They did videoing for us earlier for different promotional videos. And due to the fact that many individuals in our community can't make it here for these community meetings due to responsibilities at home, we asked if they would come and videotape this tonight, and they will be broadcasting it on Channel 2 through YouTube and different media outlets. Tonight with me I have Dave Caldwell. Dave is currently our treasurer here at Cambridge City Schools. In front of you is a rack card, and any of those individuals watching from home, anyone who would like one of these, please reach out to the superintendent's office and we will make sure to deliver one of these to your home so that you have this information. On one side is the white side of this page really references the details about the money side, the financial side of this levy. On the blue side is what we plan to do with that money when this levy passes in May. To begin tonight, I've asked Dave if he would take a little bit of time and review the white side of this document with you, and then I'll spend about 20 minutes or so reviewing this blue side of the card. So Dave, if you would.
Okay. Thanks, Dan, and I will echo Dan's comments. We appreciate your time coming out tonight. We know there's a lot of things going on, but we appreciate you coming out to spend some time talking about the levy and understanding what we're attempting to do with this levy. As Dan said, every voter has an important decision to make on May the 8th. What we have decided is that we have a need to take a levy to the voters on May the 8th. And if you look at the white side of this card, you'll see that the levy that we're proposing is actually a 9.7 mil emergency operating levy. That operating levy will generate additional tax revenue for the district. And how did we get to where we're at in terms of asking for an additional investment from our voters in the educational process for our students? I'd like to walk through that for just a few minutes because there's a couple things that are at play. I started as the treasurer about 12 months ago, the first part of last year. Dan had been on board about 6 months, and when shortly after I started, it's important to understand how schools are funded. I would say a couple things. Primarily, our biggest investment in terms of funding the school comes through the state of Ohio. We get about 60% of our dollars through the state of Ohio. Another 25% roughly comes from your real estate taxes. Then the other 15% roughly is made up of a number of different things, smaller things, open enrollments and federal programs that we get. But really the state funding and the real estate taxes are the two primary drivers. Shortly after I started, the state came out with their biannual budget. The state is funded every 2 years with a budget. And through that budget process, the initial take on that budget was that our district was going to be cut $631,000. That was the fourth largest cut out of roughly 610 districts in the state of Ohio. The fourth largest cut was being absorbed by the Cambridge City School District. Dan and I did some lobbying efforts up through some of the legislators in Columbus. Through that process, fortunately, that number got smaller. I say less worse. That's not very grammatically correct, but that funding cut got cut a little bit. We still took a cut. Then on top of that, we took a federal cut of about 17% of our federal dollars. So we got kicked kind of twice in terms of the revenue that we were receiving. And what we're hearing is that we think that if there's new additional money to fund schools, we think that needs to happen locally as opposed to coming from the state. What I'm required to do through the state is to create what we call a 5-year forecast. That 5-year forecast says, here's the revenue we expect over the next 5 years, and here's the expenses that we expect over the next 5 years. And what we show starting next year is we start showing a deficit spending, meaning we're starting to spend more money than we're receiving through that revenue. So we've got revenues that are kind of going down. We've got expenses that continue to rise as everybody's household expenses go up. So do ours, although we have made significant cuts, and I'll talk about those in a minute. But we're seeing the revenue going down, the expenses going up, and we see this deficit that's happening over the course of the next year. So we think there's a need to put a levy on the ballot to fill that deficit. But we wanted to go a step further. In addition to just filling that gap, we know this 9.7 mils is a big ask, and we recognize that. But in addition to the deficit that we're trying to fill, we also think that it's important that we add back some things that have created some challenges for us over the last few years. We've cut many programs, particularly back in 08 and 09, we cut a number of programs that have been to the detriment of our district, and we think we are losing students because of that. One of our challenges is open enrollment. We're losing students to other districts, and when we lose a student to another district, when we get funding from the state and a student chooses to open enroll to another district, the money that we receive goes with that child to that other district. That challenge to us is a seven-figure number. We're losing about $1 million a year through open enrollment challenges. So that's a significant challenge that we think we need to try to find a way to resolve, and we think we need to do that through providing additional educational opportunities through the efforts that Dan's going to kind of walk through on the back side of this card. One of the other points I would stress in terms of funding is that we have not, as a district, received any new operating money since 1992. That was the last operating levy that we passed in terms of a new money levy. We currently have an existing emergency operating levy that's been on the books since 92, and it's renewed every 5 years. So we've not had any additional new money from an operating standpoint. I just think about that from my own household standpoint. My expenses since 1992 have arisen somewhat since then, but our revenues have not kept pace. The other thing I would mention is that we used to have a permanent improvement levy. A permanent improvement levy is a levy that was on the books that would allow for money to come into the district to be used for capital improvement projects. We've got buildings that are now 15 years old. We'll need new roofs. We'll need new HVAC systems. We don't have a levy in place that's adding into that fund. We had one that dropped off of the ballot, dropped off of the books in 1996 and was not replaced. So any capital improvements that we're making now are coming out of the general operating fund, which is a challenge that many districts don't face in terms of some of the revenue coming in. So that's the need that we have. We think, I guess one other point I'd make, we think we've been very prudent in terms of the expenses that we've made. When we saw that challenge, that budget challenge last year, we did do a number of things that you all experienced as a part of what we called the redistricting of our buildings. We took 3 elementary schools, put them into 2. That created some operating efficiencies. We banded the grades together at that point. But that also gave us the opportunity to consolidate our administrative team that was out at, we had a group out at Fairdale that we moved into the Old South Elementary School. We're calling it our Garfield Administrative Center. We moved folks from our old Oakland Elementary School into that same school. That gave us the opportunity to sell Oakland. We sold that in November. We're in the process of selling off the Fairdale property. We put that through an auction late last year. We're in the process of selling that. We did not bring back some positions that retired or resigned last year, so we've cut some expenses. So we're trying to do what we can to be as prudent as we can with the dollars that we have. But as we look forward and see that deficit spending and see the opportunities that we have in front of us on this blue side, we think it's critical that we pursue this levy. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dan to talk about some of the things we'll add back or can add back in terms of if the levy's passed. So.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate the overview of the white side of the rack card. It gives you the financial side. The blue side is kind of what I get amped up or excited about. And these are really the 14, and it could have been more, but 14 items that we found were important that we would put in front of the voters. And the reason this list of 14 didn't just come from what I saw, what I observed over the last nearly 2 years as a superintendent here, but really is an observation from listening. And in my initial conversations with the community and with the staff, I really told people my job was to listen more than it was to act for as long as I possibly could so that I could try to learn about this school district. Unfortunately, with that budget cut, that period of listening got cut short, and we really had to put the wheels in motion to fix a significant budget deficit. But overwhelmingly, in the last 2 years, what I've heard from the community is that we want Cambridge City Schools to be known as a great place for a well-rounded educational opportunity for students. And the last thing we want to hear is that Cambridge City Schools is falling behind any other place of education, whether it's in Guernsey County, southeastern Ohio. Quite frankly, those expectations are high. Those expectations should be there, and those expectations absolutely should not drop. We as a school district must find a way to meet those expectations of the community. And the challenge with that, though, is our expectations are here, and quite frankly, our resource level is here. And in order to close that gap, we felt it was necessary to put a levy on this ballot after we did the things that we did last year in regards to redistricting and other activities, other changes that we were able to make within the district. This list comes from the community, from our staff, from our students, through our Board of Education. I really take these 14 items and I put them into 5 different buckets. I look at it as what is our approach from this levy going to do to impact student safety? What is it going to do to impact our facilities? What's it going to do to impact academics, performing arts, and athletics? And I really truly believe if individuals in our community take the time to understand what is on this document, they understand why the need is that great on the flip side. There are several examples of things that I could give you tonight that would allow you to understand why our district has got to the point that our expectations are here and our resources are here. But quite honestly, I'm not looking backwards. We're not headed that direction. This district hired me as a superintendent to come in and create change to help bring this district back to where our staff wants it to be, bring it back to where our students want it to be, where our Board of Education, and most importantly, where our community wants this district to be. And quite honestly, we need the help, we need the community support to put the resources in place to make these items happen. Tonight I'm going to go through those briefly with you and give you a couple of different examples on each topic. After tonight's event, if you have any questions or questions down the road, please feel free to reach out to my office. We want to be, and we will be, as transparent as absolutely possible on any of these activities, whether it's on the money side, the financials of this levy, or on the blue side as to what we're going to do with those funds as a district. Many of these items I look at, okay, how does this impact today's students sitting in seats in each of our 4 school buildings and our preschool down in our Garfield Center? I also look at many of these items as how does that have an effect on our open enrollment challenge that Dave referenced earlier. We're a school of choice, and that is a change that Cambridge City Schools must continue to make. Before, schools were not school of choice until open enrollment truly became a key player in what happens within the public education system. And you can either like open enrollment or you can strongly dislike open enrollment. But at the end of the day, it is here, and I believe it's here to stay. And we have to make sure that we are providing for the students in the chair today and also find creative ways to help our community understand we're a school of choice and be the best, most well-rounded educational system in the area so that Cambridge City School students stay at Cambridge City Schools. Improve curriculum, instructional resources, and materials. Our staff want to do their job to the highest level possible. I truly believe that we have a core foundation of teachers and administrators who want to do their job at the highest level possible. We have to find balance when it comes to instructional materials, resources, and curriculum. We have to give those tools to our teachers. Currently, those teachers oftentimes are faced with the decision to either A, not buy the materials and the resources that they need for their classroom, or to dip into their own personal pocket and pull those funds out to pay for those items that they need to simply do their job. I'm not standing in front of you saying that we're going to be able to meet and fulfill every single one of those needs for our nearly 140 teachers in this district, but we must find a better way to create balance in that conversation. Additional mental health and anti-drug programs. If you were at the safety meeting last week, you heard me talk for about an hour and a half on that topic. If not, you may be hearing about this, whether you're reading the newspaper, listening to the radio, wherever it may be. We have a significant mental health issue here in the city of Cambridge, in Guernsey County, southeastern Ohio, the state of Ohio, wherever you prefer to look. Mental health is the driving force of these safety issues that are occurring in our country. And we must find ways to put resources in front of our kids that help them through whatever they happen to be going through at that moment. We currently employ a social worker who serves our students and serves them well from 6th grade through 12th grade. We have very limited mental health resources available from kindergarten through 5th grade. We have to find a way to create balance. We have to find a way to put those resources down in those elementary schools if we want those kids to be successful. It's proven time and time again that foundation, parents have them from birth to 5. We get them at 5 years old. What we do with them in those primary years before they come to the middle school is an absolute indicator of their success. And mental health, sadly, unfortunately, is there, and it is there at that grade level. And we can sugarcoat that and look away from that, and we can act as if 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds can't have mental health issues. But I'm here to tell you, I see it, I observe it, I listen about it every single day of some of the challenges that students, that kids, 5- and 6-year-olds present to their teachers on a regular basis. We must find a way to provide better resources down in those elementary grade levels and be able to sustain what we're doing currently with that middle school and that high school with our current structure. Anti-drug programming, I don't need to speak about that. You see what's going on in our community. We are a microcosm of our community, period. Oftentimes I use the example when you hear a house was raided on such and such street by the Cambridge police and they're doing their job and they're doing the best that they can, and you hear that there were 2 students in that house of school age. Those kids go to school at Cambridge City Schools. Our job is to provide a well-rounded academic experience for them. But when they're coming to school and we know the challenges that they are facing because of the opioid drug epidemic and the challenges that they're facing because of mental health, whether it's with their parents or within themselves, we must find a way to provide those resources to help those students. Provide one-to-one technology devices for all students. This is one where I get into the conversation about current students, and I also get into a conversation about how we can better market Cambridge City Schools. Technology is a part of our lives. Technology is there to stay. Our students react to the use of technology in the classroom very, very well. It is not there to replace the teacher. I do not believe in online schools, period. I believe in schools that provide a teacher in front of students and effective teachers who can use that technology as a tool in their classroom. We've got to make sure, another example where we give the right tools to those teachers to make sure that they can simply do their jobs. We see the use of technology down with kindergarten students. I walk into a kindergarten classroom and I will see 5-year-olds working in pods, on Chromebooks, logging in, getting on an app, whatever it may be. These are 5- and 6-year-olds. This is how they learn. This is how they operate. I think about my own kids, and that creates challenges. Too much tech time, using consequences such as unplugging the Wi-Fi. Our worlds have changed versus how my parents raised me and how my parents disciplined me. It looks different, but it has the same effect. Technology is here. It's here to stay, and our kids, in the right environment with the right use of it, benefit from a learning standpoint from technology. From a marketing standpoint, many of our local schools, if you go there today from an open enrollment standpoint, they are providing students with a one-to-one technology. When you walk into your classroom, you do have access to a device every single day. Many of our middle schools and high schools in our community, in our neighboring districts, they have a device, and it's a device that they take home with them every single day. Think about that from a marketing standpoint, taking away from the educational side of it and how powerful it is. From a marketing standpoint, if I go to such and such school, I will receive a free iPad or I will receive a free Chromebook. That has power in it, and good for those districts. I don't stand in front of you and claim that what they're doing is wrong. They're competing and they're providing a quality education for those kids. We need the ability to provide the same here at Cambridge. Expansion of the College Credit Plus offerings. Well, this is the opportunity for high school age and down even into the middle school, but primarily at the high school age level, that students can take true transcripted college credit courses for free. We do provide a couple of those courses over at Cambridge High School, but we absolutely need to expand on that resource for these students. We have many students at Cambridge High School who are plenty capable of taking these courses and being successful in those courses. From an educational standpoint, we need to be able to make sure that those students that can achieve at that high level, that we're able to provide that opportunity for them. From a marketing standpoint, there are local districts where you can go as an open enroll student and take many, many, many more hours of free transcripted college credit that you absolutely cannot get today at Cambridge High School. Continue to improve the new health and wellness program at Cambridge High School. This is a program that we recently implemented. We moved, many of you know Tank Moore, was a gym teacher down at one of our elementary buildings. We moved him to the high school to be a part of this program. I'm really excited to see where this program may grow. Kids are really talking about health and wellness and nutrition, and it is not just limited to athletes or who are having that conversation. Kids are not coming to me saying, why don't we have pizza every single day in the cafeteria? Why don't we have unlimited amounts of ranch dressing every day in the cafeteria? Things that I used to hear as a building principal. Today I hear, can we get more salads? We do offer salads, but can we get more? When they typically run out by the second lunch. Can we get more fresh fruit and fresh vegetables? How do we accomplish that? You know, kids are asking they're busy. Their days are full with many different activities. Is there an opportunity that I can have time during the day to do my weightlifting or cardio? Many of our kids are talking about going into the healthcare field as a career. How can we take that program and grow it into something that serves any student that wants to take that program, but serves them in any of those areas, whether it's from an athletic standpoint to just a wellness standpoint to what their nutrition looks like and so forth. That really can be a neat program. It's going to be a powerful program for Cambridge High School if we're able to keep it and if we're able to take it and expand upon what it currently is today into what I truly think this could grow into. Elimination of pay-to-play for all athletic and extracurricular activities. Any student who plays a sport or plays in the marching band, they pay $100 per sport. From an educational standpoint, we could easily stand here and say, you know what, we're providing curricular activities for our students and we're getting that job done, and that is the extent of what we're required to do. Extracurriculars are exactly what they are. They're extra. I don't look at it that way. They're not extra. Kids who are active, who are engaged, who participate in those so-called extracurricular activities are more likely to be successful during the academic day. And there is example after example that we could provide, and any of the principals out there and any of our teachers could provide, that when we have a student who is engaged in an activity, they're more likely to be successful. Pay-to-play throws up barriers. It puts barriers in place that prevent students from being successful. If they are not able to participate in these activities because of that $100 pay-to-play fee, that prevents them from being connected. And I can promise you this much, when the bell rings at the end of the school day, our middle school, all of our students, but primarily talking about our middle school and our high school students, I assure you of one thing, they are doing something when that bell rings. Pay-to-play affects what we're able to provide them to do to define what that something is. Because they're out there either being productive or they're not being productive, but I assure you they're doing something. And we have to provide that opportunity for students by eliminating that pay-to-play fee that sometimes can reach into around $1,000 for a parent if they have multiple kids in the district playing multiple sports. That must go away, and it needs to go away quickly. From a marketing standpoint, our neighboring school districts do not have a pay-to-play fee. We know students can go to school districts in our area through open enrollment, and there is not an open enrollment fee. We have to eliminate that. That goes directly back to Dave's comments about open enrollment and when it nets out at over $1 million a year. Implementation of alternative education environments at the middle school and the high school. I oftentimes tell people I'm not looking, and I already said tonight, I'm not looking for an online virtual school that's just a standalone virtual school. I don't believe in them. I believe there's a reason why they're failing. It's because they don't have that connected person. They don't have that mentor. They don't have that teacher. They don't have that administrator or that school counselor in front of them helping them through that process. We have to find a way to have alternative educational environments because there is a barrier to them being successful that we may be able to identify or we may not be able to identify, but we know it's there. And oftentimes, he doesn't know I'm going to say this tonight, but in these other speeches, I talk about Steve Taylor sitting here as the assistant principal at the middle school. Steve handles a lot of kids on a daily basis who are going to have the need for alternative education. Steve's been in this business a long time, and Steve could identify kids, if I asked him to do this, who he truly believes, if we keep them in the same path, that they will graduate, versus kids, if we keep them in the same path, will they become a high school dropout? And I guarantee you that he can sit there and identify with near certainty, with near 100% validity, that whether or not that student's going to be successful or not, if we keep them in the same exact path through 6th grade, 7th, 8th, and all the way through high school. That absolutely affects our high school dropout rate. And we must do things to correct that from that academic standpoint. But we must be able to clearly identify students who are not going to be successful in our professional opinions and who need an alternative education structure of some sort. We need our counselors to be a key player in that conversation, because we need to create an environment that those kids can be successful, because we can accurately predict that if they stay in the same path, they won't end their 4 years of high school with a high school diploma. Continued support of a Cambridge police officer serving as a school resource officer. We have a school resource officer in place. He is a Cambridge City police officer. He is hired through the police department. He works at Cambridge City Schools 40 hours a week. We need the ability to keep that position in place. We will keep that position in place as long as we can. We probably could come back today or a year from now and easily sell the need for a second school resource officer. I'm not saying by passing this levy that we would get a second school resource officer, but it does open up the ability to have that conversation, because today's conversation is how do we find a way to keep the one that we have currently. This levy keeps that in place, but it also allows us to have that conversation about what does that program expand to into the future. The last thing I want to do, and we're not going to negative campaign. We are not going to come in front of the community and say, if this levy fails, this is what we're going to do. I don't personally believe in this, and I know Dave doesn't believe in that concept. We want to show you what we're going to be able to do for our students. But the last thing I want to do is sit there in May or June and have to make a decision between an elementary teacher and a school resource officer. Whatever choice I make is the wrong choice. I really don't want to be put in that position. And quite honestly, that conversation about school safety, about a resource officer, about this levy, they all run together at some point. And they become a very, very difficult conversation to have internally and then within our staff, within our community. Upgrades, preventative maintenance on parking lots, HVAC roofs, and other permanent improvements of our 15-year-old buildings. Folks, coming into this community, I knew we had beautiful facilities. This community got behind a building project 15, 16 years ago. You know, the levy was ran probably 17 or 18 years ago to build those facilities. We have nice facilities here. Sometimes internally we knock our facilities because they're not as nice as someone. We have nice facilities. The challenge is our community oftentimes still calls them the new schools or the new buildings. They're 15 years old. They're not new any longer. They're starting to show issues. Our parking lots, our roofs, our HVAC systems are absolutely starting to show challenges. We know in the next 10 years, without question, we're going to have to replace the roof on all 5 school buildings. We know in today's dollar, based on an architectural review that we had done several months ago, that is approximately $1.4 million that it's going to cost to put new roofs on these buildings. We believe in the next 10 years our parking lots will all absolutely need maintenance and upkeep done to them. We believe that to be several $100,000s to keep the parking lots. Our HVAC system, we will need to replace the majority of our heat pumps in our buildings. They cost approximately $6,000 to $7,000 a piece. We have nearly 400 of them. When you do that math, it quickly becomes a very, very big 7-figure number. So we have beautiful facilities. In the district, the community made the commitment to those new facilities, and we needed them, and we have them. But we have to make sure that we can take care of them. And if we don't, they're going to fall apart in front of our own eyes. Expanded performing arts, including choir, drama, and band. We currently do not have drama here in the district. We do have choir back part-time. We brought that back this year part-time as a sign to our community of, look, if we can find the way to put the resources in place, we're willing to do the work and bring these items back. We did bring back the industrial arts program. It's only one period a day, but we're showing the commitment to those type of programs that we want to bring them back to this district. Band, I was talking to Ricky Harvey today. He has nearly 40 members in that band. I think that's a pretty strong number. Oftentimes people are in my ear saying our band's too tiny. I agree with it, but we don't support financially our band, period. We do not financially support them. They're using instruments in many cases from the 1970s. We have to find a way to support that band program if you want it to grow. And that's an example of where those expectations are. 40's too small. I don't know what's big enough. I don't know if it's 60, 80, or 100, and I don't know what it can grow to, but I can tell you if the expectation is much higher than what the resources allow for currently. Recruitment and retention of effective educators and staff. You want the best people every day teaching your kids. You want the best administrators. We want the best bus drivers. We want the best custodians, cooks, whatever the position may be. We have to be able to recruit and retain those individuals. We are falling behind. We have fallen behind from a financial standpoint of what our neighboring school districts are supporting their staff members through. And that's a difficult part of this conversation, to think about my taxes going up so that somebody can have a pay raise. I'm not saying that we can quickly become the highest paying position or the highest paying district in any of those positions and anytime soon. But we better create balance. And if we don't have balance, the quality of our educators, the recruitment and the retention of our educators and all of our support staff is going to go down. The one example I give is we posted a diesel mechanics job twice in the last year. We posted it in different areas. We posted it different ways. At the end of the hiring process, we had 0 applicants. I don't know that a time's gone by in the last 2 years that there's been any point in time in my superintendency here that we have not had a bus driving position open. We have lost teachers who are born and raised Bobcats who came to work here and have since left in the last few years. We have to change that. We have to be able to recruit and retain the most effective educators and staff that we possibly can. Support for the band program, support for athletics. I take those last two and I simply lump them together. Those are those extracurricular that I think are vital. They're key to our success. And it's more than just those programs. It's the industrial arts. It's several other areas that we must improve upon. But when it comes to that band and those the performing arts along with athletics, they are simply out there fighting over the same $3 in a fundraiser, quite honestly, because our district is not able to financially support them in a manner that is anywhere near balanced. And I'm not standing in front of you tonight saying that the district, that the taxpayers should pay for everything when it comes to extracurriculars, when it comes to the band, or when it comes to any of our athletic sports. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is we absolutely need balance from a performing arts and an athletic standpoint, so that when things that the district should be taking care of, we are able to take care of. And I'm not standing in front of you telling you that this levy is going to, I don't want anybody to misinterpret what I'm saying. This levy is not going to take McFarland Stadium and make it into a beautiful stadium with new turf and new concession stands and new locker rooms. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about when the ice machine makes that the football team relies on for injuries, that the district should be able to step up and handle those expenses. When the cross-country course needs mowed on a regular basis during the summer so that the kids can run, we need to be able to step up and take care of some of those items. When the band's doing a fundraiser and he's bringing out a baritone and saying, this is the baritone, if a kid says they want to play the baritone in the band and it's nicked up, dinged up, it's not shiny, it maybe plays close to in tune, and it looks like it's from the 1970s. It looks like it's from the 1970s because it is from the 1970s. We have expectations that need to stay here, folks, but we have to be able to put the resources in place if you want this school district to meet those expectations. I greatly appreciate your time. We'll have a question and answer session here in a few minutes. I appreciate AVC Communications being here tonight to record this, and thank you.